Alright guys, welcome back into another PGA DFS video. Alright, in this video we're going to go over last week's recap. It was a pretty good week. We're going to touch on the US Open. It was a pretty fun week. As you guys probably know, you watched the video, you can already tell we had a good week. Especially for the patrons, they had a good week as well. I want to say thanks to everyone that kind of gave us a shout out for doing well last week, or just overall this whole year. I do appreciate that. I know there's a lot of comments made out there. Really appreciate that, guys. But in this video, we're going to go over last week's recap, going to go over the player pool, and then we're not going to actually have a core 4 section. It's going to be just kind of mispriced plays. There are 2 value plays that really stood out to me, and then another play that was definitely a little bit too cheap, and then one high-end play that I really do like. So let's get right into it with last week's recap. Alright, so on the screen there, you can see the GPP build, the cash build, and then the Patreon page player pool. So as you guys can see there, the core plays did pretty well, the high exposure plays did well, and the mid exposure plays did really well as well. And then with that, the Patreon's got a really strong player pool. And then the way that you're supposed to use this is, say you're on your, the last part of your build, you got 5 out of the 6 already made, then you use the low exposure or the value plays if need be. But you want to fill it out there by using the core, high exposure, and mid exposure plays. So that's how that occurs, and I did that, and I had one of my best weeks this whole year, a top 4 total this year, so that was really nice. On the cash build, obviously that cash, that was an easy, really nice week, and we kind of categorized it as a green-yellow week, so not going all in, and the color codes that we do is red. We're only going to put in 1 or 2 cash builds. Yellow is going to be like 3 or 4, and then green kind of means that we're going to go pretty hard, maybe 10 contests we're going to enter, kind of just as many as we want to at that point. So I did enter in quite a bit of contests. It was a really good week on the cash side of things. I want to bring up that GPP lineup there because it sucked. Well, it's a good lineup of cash anyways, but this is one of my better GPP builds. But I'm bringing this one up specifically because I talked to Xander Schauffele. And if I would have just put him in there instead of Tommy Fleetwood, it would have been a top 5 finish last week. So that was kind of a tough pill to swallow because I had Xander in a ton of my lineups. And one thing I noticed is I just had a little bit too much Tommy Fleetwood. And if that was something I would have noticed last week at the start of the week, or right before contest lock, could have been really beneficial. But anyways, it was a really good week. Gary Woodland had him in our player pool as a mid-exposure play. He won. That was really fun. Honestly, that was one of the best majors we've seen this year, and in a while, honestly. It was really fun to watch, really engaging. I'm proud of Gary Woodland. He finally broke through and had a nice victory. But let's get into this week's player pool. But as always, we do the course preview, or contest preview, should say. So this week I do think current form will be something we want to look at the most. And also we're going to be looking at, course history as well. I think that'll be a dominant factor as well this week. The players that, or the stats that we're going to be looking at are going to be ball striking, total driving as well. We're going to be looking at strokes gained total, strokes gained approach, strokes gained approach from 125 to around 175, because there's going to be there's a lot of par 4s, so we're going to be looking at par 4 scoring. But for the strokes gained approach, a lot of their shots are going to end up being between that 125 to 175 yards, so that's why we're going to be looking at that statistic. And that's kind of about it. Always looking at greens and regulation, but also total putting. So players that are putting well in this event typically score really well and typically finish pretty high. So we want to target those good putters. Obviously, we know putting can come and go whenever, but that is a stat that we're definitely going to be looking at this week. All right, now getting into the player pool for this week. I do like Brooks Koepka again this week. He does have some pretty good course history. T19 last year, and then T9 in 2016. He's one of the better staff hits, obviously. He can just go out and dominate. Brooks Koepka, we know he's a world-class player. Don't really have to touch on it too much. Patrick Cantlay is going to be a good play as well. He had a T15 finish here in 2018. And honestly, with the value plays that are out there, I think you can fit Brooks and Cantlay into your builds and have a pretty decent lineup this week. So I'll touch on that a little bit later on in the video, and I will touch on Patrick Cantlay a little bit later on in the video as well. So the next 2 guys, Jordan Spieth, Francesco Molinari, Jason Day, even Justin Thomas. You can all play those guys in GPPs if you want to, but the one I want to touch on the most is going to be Paul Casey. You look at his course history, T2, T5, T17, and a second finish. He is the best total driver in the player pool or in the PGA Tour. He's the top 4 ball striker, so obviously we like that. He's 16th in strokes gained total, 19th in strokes gained approach, 37th in par 4 scoring, 35th in birdie or better, 17th in greens or regulation. All that adds up to Paul Casey being a great play. Now, Bryson DeChambeau had kind of struggled for a period of time there, but he is a really good player. He hasn't missed a cut here in 3 starts, so we do like that. He's a good total driver, good ball striker. He's kind of just checking all the boxes that we want to see. So we do like Bryson DeChambeau as a play. I wouldn't be surprised if he went out and won this event. He doesn't make for a bad GPP option. Maybe a cash option as well. I definitely do like him as an option. He's priced kind of appropriately. So Bryson DeChambeau this week, not going to be too bad of an option. I do wish he had a little bit better greens from regulation, but oh well. Brent Snedeker is going to be another decent option this week. He missed a cut last year in this event, but before that he had a T14 and a T10 finish in his last 2 starts before that. Obviously he's only missed 2 cuts this year. He did struggle at the US Open, but he did make the cut, so that was kind of nice to see. He's a really good putter, kind of just a guy that gets it done each and every week. I really don't mind him as an option, but I'd rather just go a little bit lower and go with someone like Jason Kokrak. Now, Jason Kokrak's been a guy that we played a lot this year, and that's just because he's been a cut-making machine. 23 straight cuts made. He did have a missed cut here last year, but before that, he had made 3 straight cuts here. He's one of the best ball strikers and total drivers in the field. He's a great in strokes gain totals, great in strokes gain approach. His strokes gain from that 125 to 170 ratio is top 15, so we do like that as well. He's just, it's a good, really good fit. I like Jason Kokrak this week. Kevin Streelman's been playing some good golf recently, so I'm just going to have him in the player pool. He had a T33 finish here last year and a T8 finish before that, and 2 missed cuts, but oh well. He's, his course history is better now, recently, and he's just like top 30 in all the stats that we're looking at this week, especially the major stats. The secondary stats, he's about T60, so that's all right. Charlie Hoffman's a guy that I will have in GPPs, maybe 15% ownership or so. I'm not too sure just yet this early on in the week, but he has tremendous course history. T15, T3, and T25, so 3 top 25 finishes. We do really like that. Emiliano Grillo is a play that I do like as well, and honestly, I'll touch on him a little bit later on, but only 1 missed cut this year. He's kind of been dominating recently. I don't want to say dominating, but he's been playing well recently. And we know with Grillo, he's a great ball striker, great, strokes gain approach guy. He just kind of gets it done. Now his 125 to 170 ratio wasn't the best, and his par 4 scoring isn't the best, but I do like him at that price point. It's kind of just a really nice option at that price point. Now going a little bit lower, there are some people that are standing out. Sanjay In, Russell Knox, Kevin Kisner, Keegan Bradley. Those are all going to be decent GPP options, and I don't mind them. But there's a lot of GPP options I like this week, so I can't touch on all of them. Maybe I'll go live, and you guys can ask how I feel about certain players, or feel free to do that in the comment section below. But Keegan does have good course history. He made 4 straight cuts here, so GPP-wise, I'll probably have 10% ownership of him. Adam Hadwin, I like him to make the cut. Seems like a decent cash option. He's made the cut here the last 2 years, although it was a T42 and T57 finish. He's also made 6 straight cuts. So he is in good form, and this should be a course that he can play well. It's just a matter of if he's putting well or not. But not a horrible option for you this week. If you go a little bit lower, Joaquin Neiman's a decent GPP option, but one of the best GPP options this week looks like Troy Merritt. So Troy Merritt has missed the cut here 3 out of the last 4 years, but the 1 year he made the cut, he finished T8. And honestly, Troy Merritt, stat-wise, it's phenomenal. So 22nd in ball striking, 15th in total driving, 44th in strokes gained total. He's 29th in strokes gained approach, 9th in that 125 to 175 strokes gained. He's not the best putter, 108 in the field, but also, his greens and regulations is pretty good, and he's just been a cut maker. So I think Troy Merritt makes for a great GPP option. That's why I have him projected at a 20 finish with the asterisk there, because if he makes the cut, it'll be a really nice week, I believe. Harris English has kind of been a value option for us the last few weeks. He's been playing really well, so if we want to ride the wave with Harris English, we could definitely do that. I really don't mind it as an option. Definitely more of a GPP option, but I would get it if you wanted to. Matt Jones, a good stat fit. I don't mind him. He's missed 6 cuts, 13 out of 19 cuts made this year. Not a bad stat fit. He's top 30 stat fit. And he had a T19 finish here last year. Not horrible. Nick Taylor continues to, kind of just play well this year. Surprisingly, he doesn't have the best course history here. So maybe a 5% GPP type of play. The one play I want to touch on is Collin Morikawa. And the reason I want to touch on him is because there's like two other guys like him, Matthew Wolff and Victor Hovland. You probably saw Victor covered a lot last week at the U.S. Open, and that might push up his ownership, especially at that price. It already pushed up his price. And you got Matthew Wolff there as well, who's a little bit higher priced than Collin Morikawa. So I think at this price point, I'd just rather play Collin Morikawa. He is known as a ball striker in college, and that's what we want to see, especially at this course, because ball striking is key at this course. So I'd rather just pay down for him than go with those other two options. Now, they're both going to be, I think they're going to be higher owned because people want to play these young guys. That's just kind of what they want to do. But the one that I would play is going to be Collin Morikawa. Now, if you wanted to play the other two, I wouldn't really blame you, but that's going to be the one I'm going to go with this week if I do play one of them. Typically, I don't like to do that because it's hard to predict how well that they will actually play. Now, one of the plays that I really do like is actually going to be Peter Malnati, and this is where the value range is pretty nice, actually. So, Peter Malnati, T26 here last year, 275 the year before that, and then a miscut. But you look at his stats, these are mostly all secondary stats that he's good at. 64th in strokes gained total, 47th in strokes gained approach, and then the rest of his stats are all, T70 or better. So given this field, he should be able to make the cut and have a good weekend. He does have that good recent form that we like to see. So I do like him as an option. Now, there's other decent value options as well in that range, but I'm going to touch on Cameron Triangle here. I always say his name wrong. I'm sorry about that. T69 here last year. Pretty decent stat fit in those secondary stats once again, but it's his recent form that's pretty good. 3 out of his last 4 starts have been top 25 finishes. He does have a missed cut mixed in there as well, but still not too bad. Now, Hank Lebioda in the last tournament that he was in, I said, he at his price point in that tournament, that's a play that we like to see for GPP options. And once again, it's the same thing. He's a decent stat fit once again this week, so we do like Hank Lebioda as a 15, 10% GPP type of play this week, especially in that value range where if you want to mix in Koepka or Cantlay or Spieth or Day, you can do that by playing someone like Lebioda. Now, Vaughn Taylor, I'm going to touch on him a little bit later on, but he has some good form. He's just kind of checking all the boxes, especially at that lower price. I really don't mind him as a play, but that's kind of going to be the overall field and lineup this week. Obviously, you can change that and adjust that accordingly to how you guys want to. But let's get into the top plays, we'll call them, for this week. All right, so the top play of the board for this week, I do think it's going to be Patrick Cantlay. And I want to touch on it a little bit deeper here. So Patrick Cantlay, the thing that I like about him the most is that he is first in par 4 scoring, first in birdie or better percentage, 29th in strokes gained putting, 3rd in strokes gained total, 16th in strokes gained approach. And he's top 50 in total driving and ball striking. He does have that course history here, and his recent form is great. I think if we play him, we're not locking in a top 10 finish, but it's highly likely that he could easily have a top 10 finish. We don't always know what Brooks is going to be like after the major, if he's going to come out and play well. Now, I do think he will, but that kind of brings up the bigger point for these tournaments. They're kind of more volatile because you don't know how the event before a major and the event after a major, they're kind of volatile to me because you don't know what the mindset of the player is going to be, especially if those guys had played the week before in that major event. So, all in all, getting back to the point, Patrick Cantlay, as a young guy, he's going to go out and try to play well. Don't mind him this week. The next option is going to be Emiliano Grillo. So he's a top 25 stat fit in the field, and you look at his recent form, it's pretty good. Now, last week at the U.S. Open, he was definitely kind of an easier, it wasn't value. I don't think he was below 7K. I'd have to look at that again. I don't really remember. But he was definitely an option that you could play in GPPs. He went out, shot in 68 in the first round, and that made sense. As a ball striker course, you want those guys that could set themselves up to put them, in a good spot. That's exactly what this course is, and I do think he's going to do well. His recent form is pretty good. He did have a T58 finish at the U.S. Open. This is a lot easier field, a little bit easier of a course, where he can go out and shoot one of those other rounds like he has recently with the T9, T19, T23, and T33. Now, if he gets, around a T30 finish at that price point, that's really not too bad, and we definitely, we'll take that. The last one here, well, I got one more after this, but Peter Malnati, I already touched on it. Does have that decent course history. The recent form is what we like a lot. Like I said, all those secondary stats are what we like to see. He is a second shot type of guy. As long as he can hit the fairway and get his ball into the green, he's going to have a good week. And at that price point, I'm definitely willing to risk that. Might have him in cash. We'll have to wait and see on that. But I also don't mind the next option. Ooh, I apologize. Had a little bit of a misclick there, I apologize. But the next option, Vaughn Taylor here. I'll dive a little bit deeper into Vaughn Taylor. So obviously he has that good course history, hasn't missed a cut here in the last 4 years. So we do like that. The recent forms there, he's made, his last 4 cuts here. But let me pull up his stats here. So Vaughn Taylor, let me find him. All right, so Vaughn Taylor, he's not the best total driver or ball striker, but after that, 69th in strokes gained total. 89th in that strokes gain approach, 50th in the strokes gain, 125 to 170. So we do like that. We look at his strokes gain putting though, 7th in that. So that's good. T58 in birdie or better, 43rd in par 4 scoring. So not too bad. Could be a little bit better with his greens and regulation, but given his recent form, given his course history, I think he could sneak in there and get a nice T45 finish there. So that's all I have for you guys this week. Let's pull up the ending page. All right, so real quick, guys. I've been trying to find a new driver, and the more I research it, the less I feel like I know. So I'm currently gaming a TaylorMade RBZ driver. Let me know what you guys think I should game going forward. I have kind of a higher swing speed, but I pretty much drive that baby right down the middle of the fairway. So it's a matter of gaining distance without losing accuracy. If you guys can help, put that in the comment section. Let me know what you think. But other than that, please give me a like and subscribe if you enjoyed this video. Thanks. And as always, let's keep cashing.